All right, Matt, for another episode here, The Marketing Mindset, we were on the topic of content marketing last time. And I want to stay on this thread.
Okay.
And you're always talking about the freshness of content being important.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go in and have you define that and tell me what it means.
Right. So what search cares about in general is relevant. TikTok cares about relevance. Meta cares about relevance. If you're in any of these platforms, search in particular, social, it doesn't usually offer you old content, right? So thinking about ways to create content and doing it in a regular cadence and offering it to social, offering it to Google, offering it to YouTube regularly, right? Think about your outbound for your Potomac TV on YouTube, right? It matters. Yep. It matters to YouTube how consistent you are with your drops. Because it will help you find new subscribers, right? And it will notify your current subscribers. These platforms care about relevance, and freshness means relevance. And the last thing that we were talking about was that huge data dump, accidental or whatever, from Google regarding the things that Google cares about, kind of getting behind the curtain and looking at what things Google is paying attention to. And it turns out one of the biggest things, apart from brand messaging, was freshness, relevance, and consistency. So it's crazy important for business growth. It is not something that you can neglect, particularly in the service industry when there are so many moms and pops all over the place setting up an LLC and taking their business out there on the streets, competing with you in every single sector of service industry. There are little guys, medium guys, big guys by the loads, right? Staying fresh with your content is pretty big.
Well, yeah, I mean, to your point, Google doesn't like to serve up old stuff. It doesn't like to serve leftovers, I guess. I was reading, I oftentimes get my news from Twitter. I guess I don't like to have any conflicting points of view. I like to, I don't know, but I do look at Twitter a lot. I look at Twitter a lot, and, I was reading, like, one of these things just popped up about this guy who did an experiment and said, okay, I'm into ChatGPT now, and I've got my website. So I'm going to go ahead and take every page on my website. I'm going to put it into ChatGPT. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do 3 Q&As based purely on my content. So, like, pick the most important 3 questions from my content for this particular page, write the question, and then write an answer. And what he did is he did that for every page. And at the very bottom of the page, he just copied and pasted what ChatGPT produced, put it on his website, went away for a couple of weeks. Then he went into Google Analytics, and he had massive, for the pages, I guess he didn't do it for every page, but for the pages, the old pages that he did that for, there was a dramatic increase in traffic on those pages. And I'm assuming that that's largely due to Google saying, okay, something's new on this page. It must be more timely. It's a guess.
No, it's a good guess. We'll go back to, I can use an actual example of a project we just did with a partner on an existing set of content that we had produced for them a year ago, right? But we're going to take it to Paul's Plumbing Company in Puerto Rico, Paul's Puerto Rican Plumbing Company. I love where this is. I love that this is happening. We should set up an LLC.
We should.
This company that we had produced blogs for way back when their website had just launched. They wanted to revisit some content that keyword research had let us know this is going to be pertinent in the next couple of months, right? How can we look at this body of content and make it more relevant, refresh some of the information on here, but then also, and I mean, I guess this is probably where I couldn't talk about Puerto Rico in so much. How can we take the content that's inside of this and make it and localize it to the region that it's serving, right? And provide this information that was not there previously, right? Before it may have just been, C spot run spot run, right? But now it's C spot run down Thompson Street in 28227, run spot run to Stevens Mill Park up the street, right? When you are starting to layer in content like this gentleman apparently did in Twitter, what happens is you ask Google to recrawl your site. Your digital marketing
I
team
see.
has Google refamiliarize itself with your website, right? And then all of a sudden that content, the metadata, the alt data on the pages that they just recreated or refurbed, right? That is brought to the front of the consciousness of Google, right? Front of the consciousness of search, right? And so Google remembers, because this is fresh now. Hey, a user in Puerto Rico is looking for this. Look at this page on Paul's Puerto Rican Plumbing Company's website. Let's get that page up to the user really quick. So it definitely matters. You can repurpose content that exists on your site for freshness sake, but you can also create content that wasn't there previously for freshness sake. That's probably a stupid way of saying it, but it's true. For the sake of freshness.
No, but it's just like make new shit. is
Make
what
new
you're saying.
shit or remake old shit, right?
Okay. All right.
Yeah, definitely make new shit or remake old shit. I think one of the bigger components though is doing it in regular intervals. If you want to see that steady climb of organic foot traffic to your site, if you want to see a steady climb in subscribers to Potomac TV, if you want to see a steady climb on followers on your social media, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever, make the content drops consistent, right? So that it becomes predictable to the engines themselves, and so it can offer this content, because it's not going to offer your old stuff to new visitors, right? So not just fresh, consistent, I think, is the other piece of the puzzle.
So for somebody that's running a business and has a website, how when you talk about like a regular frequency, I mean, what's reasonable? Is it weekly? Is it biweekly? Is it 3 times a week?
We do.
Or you're saying it doesn't really matter as long as you're doing it on regularly scheduled intervals?
I think regularly scheduled is what's important. We do our drops for our partners once a week, right? And we do our connections on the back end to Google My Business pages, et cetera, once a week, right? And we're doing this because there is a regular interval where Google itself is going to crawl your site, and then where we get help Google crawl your site, right? So it's kind of like how the sun passes over you. Google's going to crawl your site, and whatever it sees, or you know those vehicles that go down the road and like capture. Have you ever done one of those weird Google Map searches for like dead bodies or some guy jumping at the end of his driveway or something like that? It's a rabbit hole. It is a rabbit hole. I'm going to send you a link when we get off of this. But when the Google car passes you as it's mapping your street, that's what it remembers, and it's not going to know anything different until it passes your street again, right? And so the cadence is probably more important than when we do it once a week.
Is there platforms that make sense to do it? Like you're saying on the website, it might be once a week. But if you're doing other sort of social media type pages, is it more often, do you think, better?
I think it really is about repetition, right? Whatever you decide, stick with it, evaluate the results of what you're doing. And if you're going to make a modification based on those results, right? I think you can search right now, if we were to jump off this call, best time to publish on Facebook, for example, or best time to publish on whatever. And these are completely arbitrary from somebody's perspective, and is rooted in the things that they have understood from a marketing their marketing experience until they get to this point, right? And everybody's is going to be a little bit different. There are some things that have to do with when the maximum number of eyeballs are on the screen and stuff like that. But generally speaking, these are like arbitrary metrics. I think cadence is important. I think benchmarking your KPIs is important. And then evaluating, making subtle adjustments is always my thing. Making subtle adjustments and then reevaluating. I like to use a window of 90 days to determine, okay, if we're going to make this change, let's do it for the next 90 days. And let's look at our KPIs and see what's changed. And if we like what's changed, let's keep going, right? If we don't like what's changed, let's tone it back and move in a different direction.
You know, if you're going to pick like a weekly interval to update, you know, Facebook, website, the whole 9 yards, what are some ways that business owners can kind of crowdsource, so to speak, content creation with their teams. Is there ways to get your own team involved,
Oh
your
yeah.
employees involved in this sort of
Good
stuff?
question. We talked about this to one of our clients this past week, right? They're really struggling. Honestly, their content looks a little cookie cutter, right? Looks like every other content that would be
Hmm.
created in their particular field, right? And it's hard.
Yep.
It looks professional. It looks well done, and that's great, but it's not personal. They haven't kind of made that turn to make it theirs yet. And that's why it looks like everybody else's. And so one of the things that I recommended, and we did this at our company before we sold, we all the time got our technicians involved, and technicians love it. We would incentivize them to take selfies with a consenting client, right? And we would keep like a leaderboard at the front of the meeting, and the person that
Hmm.
got the most selfies with a happy customer to the marketing team or to whoever was posting won, I don't know, $500 or something like that, right? And
And
it is money well spent because you're creating that freshness. You are you're bringing in new stuff, right? That you can post. You are creating post regularity, right? You're finding a cadence that works right for you, that you're getting a good response from the people that are following, liking, interacting with your brand or whatever. But then also, like you're saying, you are bringing your team along. And so the company becomes less faceless to the consumer, and they feel like, hey, I know that guy. I saw his whatever. That guy can totally come over to my house when I'm there alone, like with my kids. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
It becomes less creepy
yes.
when you get everybody on board and when you're telling your company's story that way, I think.
So you guys would incentivize the production of these photographs with super
Yeah.
happy customers, and then you would repurpose those online. Is basically what you
Oh
guys
yeah.
did.
Oh yeah. We would get
Yeah.
consent from the technician. We would get consent from the homeowner. And we would let the technician know, because what we liked, we were building a culture where we wanted our technicians to be known by the homeowner, right? We wanted the
Yeah.
homeowner to feel like this was an extension of who they were. They expected this guy to come through. They knew this guy. They could leave the door open for this person, right? And so after we got consent from both of those, and they were kind of kicking those pictures into our team, we would tell the technician, "Hey, let your homeowner know you get X if you get the selfie, and they have your back, they like you, they want to do this for you." And it
Mhm.
would kind of get into the mind of the technician sometimes. No, these guys just look at us like we're blah 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 blah. But they didn't realize as soon as they started talking to their homeowners, like the homeowner could help them with a project that they're working on, a way to increase their pay or something that they were working on or whatever. Homeowners would get in line behind them, especially if the service was excellent. And I mean, that's something that we cared about the most. I think out of
Yeah.
anything is the kind of quality of service that we're providing. You can capitalize on that quality with content like this for sure.
Do you when you talk about like consent from a customer, is it like some sort of a form
Yeah.
that you would get filled
Yeah,
up?
we would just have
They'd sign a form,
consent
like
form that they could
a
sign.
release.
Exactly, a release. We can use this photograph on our, and it was just standard. I mean, there was nothing crazy about it. You can get ChatGPT to make you a social media consent form, piece of cake.
Right on.
But
Right on.
definitely get that signed. Get the technicians got an iPhone. Get them to take that picture really quick, and bam, you've got fresh content that can be released in intervals. That's helping your organic traffic to your website,
What
to your
can you
social.
do? That's awesome. I mean, what could you do with, let's say that you've got like HVAC technicians out there, or plumbing guys, or pest control guys out in the field
Yep.
dealing with customers all day, but also dealing with problems.
Yeah.
Um, can can you enlist some of these folks to make videos for YouTube? Like, hey, I'm a plumber. I was dealing with this drain problem, which is pretty common in this area of the country. Like, here's how you deal with it.
Yes.
Would you go to that level and suggest business owners think about enlisting their technicians? I mean,
You've got to
because I
pick.
think like
You've got to
you
choose,
got a
right?
problem, right? Well, I'm just thinking about like it's one thing to snap a photo with a customer
Yep.
who's consenting and waving and super happy. It's another thing to be like in somebody's place of business
Yep.
or their home and videoing,
Yeah.
right? So I think that kind of gets complicated.
Yes.
But I'm just curious if you've seen this sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We definitely had a handful. Everybody's got to keep their cards close to their chest when you're a business owner. We definitely had a
Yep.
handful of service experts, we call them, that we could trust, right? That weren't creepy and had great rapport with their homeowners, right? And similarly, if especially if the homeowners were not involved, things like physical address was not involved, these things were not disclosed. Let's pretend we're in a crawl space working on a plumbing leak, right? We would get a signature from the homeowner. Hey, I'm just going to be in your crawl. I'm going to take a quick video and talk about what kinds of things to look for when it comes to a massive problem. Is this something we can handle on our own, DIY this thing? Or is this something you need to get a professional in on, and why, right? Is that okay with you? And once we have those pieces of information, we totally empowered our technicians that we trusted. We had the conversations with them behind the scenes, right? If you see something like this and you get content like this, let us know. We will incentivize you in this way, right? And then that will go out on our social media. Absolutely. I think it's a great way to make content on the fly that's compelling, that resonates with people, homeowners in particular. But you do have to go through that consent hoop, and you do have to block things like, kids running around in the house. I wouldn't do anything inside the house. You could be like under a sink or out by an HVAC unit or under a crawl space or in an attic. Do you know what I'm saying? You can't be walking around videoing people's personal belongings. Or, that's weird.
Right.
But once you kind of check those boxes, that's great content. That's got a lot of mileage for sure.
Matt, we covered a lot of ground in search marketing today. If you could give one tip on how you can use content creation for search marketing, what would it be?
I think the thing that we utilize internally, this is a little bit of, getting behind the curtain at Lizard. This is trued out for all of the clients that we work with, for sure. Create a lot of times when people think about organic ranking, they think about their homepage showing up on page 1 of Google, right? Which is only half the battle, right? That is important. Work on your domain authority, work on all those things. That's important, right? Keep doing that. But you can utilize content and connect it to user relevant content and connect it to your Google My Business page in regular intervals. That's fresh, right? That's happening consistently to improve the organic ranking of your map pack and your Google My Business page itself, which is where all your reviews live. It communicates to a user their proximity to you, right? And is one of the places at the tip top of Google where you can be before they even get down to your ads. So if I had a tip, if I were going to talk to anybody, I would say make the content. That's amazing. Make sure you're connecting it to your site. Make sure you're connecting it to your Google My Business page in regular intervals.
I think not a lot of people are doing that.
No,
and it's probably extremely relevant for, route-based services businesses that are in a finite geography.
Absolutely.
For my business, we do it globally. It doesn't really matter. Geography is not relevant.
Yep.
But if you run a plumbing business in St. Louis, you want everything tied to your Google business page, I would imagine.
Yep. Google uses that freshness. It uses the consistency to determine that the business itself is relevant to the user. So let me get that up to the user quickly, right?
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Right on. Well, that's very helpful. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for joining me again today, Matt. Until the next time.